Well, hello, ladies, and everyone that's watching. We are going to get started today talking about homelessness. It is something that I seldomly thought of since I became a mom. I've had hard times in life growing up as a kid myself. However, this was brought to my attention after I became a mom, and I started to get to know other moms, of course, through lactation groups and stuff like that. And it put me back in 2008 when there was a big housing crash, etc. And then fast forward a couple of years forward, the financial folks are saying, man, if people just had an extra $500, they would have been able to save their homes. So $500 doesn't sound like a lot of money depending on your situation. But for a lot of folks, just to think that someone could have saved their home in a time like that, coming into my journey of being a mom, meeting moms who were successful women or career women, or they were on their own journey and they had their baby, and then reality set in, either from being discriminated at work, which a lot of people don't really put a lot of light, shed a lot of light on, but we know it exists. Unfortunately, the bias in the sexes, it exists. And also, when you have a spouse or partner that turn against you almost, and you feel like, wait a minute, both of us made this kid or decided to like take on this responsibility. I guess whether you decided to or not, the kid didn't just come out of nowhere, right? So the neglect for the joining of the mutual responsibility in having the kid, in addition to the mom needing to restore herself after having the kid, and not just restore her physical self, but her mental well-being in order to function. So when we get put into that situation now, we're trying to keep something alive that we have no clue. And I think most moms would agree, no matter how many books you read, it could not prepare you for pushing that baby out. I mean, you could try to get psyched up as much as you want, but it's so unpredictable. It's like I had the complete yin yang experience with both my kids. One was like this glorious, heavenly, beautiful thing that happened, and one was like hell on earth. But my baby's okay, thank God. But it was very traumatic, and a lot of people don't share these things with us. And I know that was a very long 10,000 feet overview of everything I want to talk to Chandelle about today, because on her journey of motherhood, she actually had to experience this borderline homelessness. I mean, down in the dirt, struggling, coming in and out, building up resiliency to just provide for herself and her family. So, with all of that, Chandelle, you've got the floor to just take us on your journey and leave a little nugget on how a mom who may be listening to this can just take that one nugget and just get encouraged and just be inspired to move on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Flo, and everyone that's on right now. And I think the first thing that I want to open up with is at times becoming pregnant is the catalyst for the deeper inner healing that gets to occur. Other times, the mother is aware and wanting to do the inner work prior, which is something that I don't think a lot of our society or culture talks a lot about, but there is a lot of personal development out there and spiritual development. Um, And so, yeah, so pregnancy as a form of pre-planned pregnancy. So it's really great to plan your pregnancy. And I think a lot of us here, we can start advocating for that idea. But to be a conscious parent, you're already a mother, you're already in this situation, you have the partner that you have. And it just, you begin to have revelations and you start to recognize that you might need a stronger foundation to stand on. What are your virtues and values is very important to this, and designing a life that honors your true nature. The reason why I became an entrepreneur was because once I became pregnant, it was the catalyst for deeper inner healing and authenticity, and for what I really wanted and what I desired the most were the things I never knew I wanted until I had my baby within me. You
Mm.
become what I call the mothership. You know, you have two souls, two hearts to protect. and the she wolf comes out of you in a way. And childhood matters. Your birth story matters. I come from a birth story where I was birthed by two teenage parents, 15 and 17. Unfortunately, my mother was with someone who had a lot of alcoholism and just did not have a very good childhood. My dad had come from a place of feeling abandonment. They took him right away. Another teenage mom who gave birth to a baby at a young age. So children raising children. So again, your birth story and your childhood really matters. It influences you greatly. And so here we are as parents where we are today, and we want to make sure that we safeguard our children and our family from the mistakes that maybe, or the challenges that we ourselves have faced. You might hear my son in the background. This is part of me designing my life to revolve around my son, because my family comes first. Even though I am a business owner, I have lots of things, interviews, but he's always with me. So he's cultured into this. Go change yourself, baby. Anyways, he has to be a little interdependent.
I know I had to adopt the catch and release, as my mom would always say, wait till you get your own, wait till you get your own. And being told I was never going to have kids, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But
Yep.
you have to really have this catch and release spirit, because it's like the closer you hold them, even the toddlers, is like you want them to stay a little baby, but at some point you got to let them go. Right.
Absolutely. And intuition is key, because like you said, we're in the age of information. There's a huge bombardment. There's a lot of unsolicited advice. Plus, of course, our influence from our own family and what our family thinks we should be doing with our children or not, how we should be birthing our babies, even what womanhood is like or marriage is like, right? So this is why it's so important for us, whether you did it prior or not. If you're now a mother and you're in a situation where you don't like what you're seeing, radical acceptance is the first thing we need to have about our current state of reality, of our mind and our being, so that we can then move forward. Introspection, self-exploration, self-discovery, because the mother is now ultimately much like that baby that's been born. It's mushy, you don't have muscle tone, you have to start over. And there is a very deep slowness that gets to occur that unfortunately this fast-paced world does not really cater to, which is why I am so determined, because now in the field that I'm in, because I am now expanding to doula services. I've been a postpartum doula for quite some time, postpartum specialist, working with mental health and seeing a lot of narcissism in relationships with pregnant women. And a lot of it comes from these women just not being self-aware enough and not knowing their virtues and values, that they weren't able to move forward. But my point is just that self-exploration now, even if that pregnancy was the catalyst, is the most important thing, starting to look at those virtues and values. And me becoming an entrepreneur was my desire to stay home. And for me, one of my virtues and values is just family comes first. My child needs me. I didn't see how breastfeeding was possible, by me leaving my child within 3 months or less time, just so that I can go and work for money to survive. And so I would love for the system to, instead of us bending to the system, starting to us advocate and make all mothers empowered again to raise their voice and say, no, something's got to change within the system. The system needs to cater to the mother's natural desires to want to be there for her family, to be there for her baby. And unfortunately, our men are also being very stressed out because they are primarily the provider. So even for them who don't have a voice and they have their own, their own things that are going on culturally, pornography industry, and what they're told about being a man and being a provider, that they don't feel like they're man enough, that they're good enough as well. And the women are the spiritual side to the men. So how can we work together to make things better? Now, if you're in a situation where your man is just not meeting you 100% of the way, or your partner, whoever that is, or your family, because maybe you're a single mom and chose to have this baby on your own, which is during COVID, there was a lot of mothers that did decide, I'm not going to wait any longer. I am 40, I am 35. I want to have a baby now, and chose sperm donors. then it's really good for us to be able to know again how to maneuver through these things. Like, you just have to take it upon yourself. You can't wait around for other people sometimes, and you got to go seek your community, which is why I love the Mompreneur, because although it's good to have community locally, sometimes we find it virtually. And now we have the World Wide Web to connect us with the right people that are more aligned with our virtues and values, that is easier for us to spot and to grow in. So I'm a big advocate of community, and women need community. It's in our true nature to be. We're the ones who pass on the news in the village back in the day. We're the ones that would connect as we went to go get water, gather water together. We would also retreat together during our moon cycle times. It's a lot has changed, and there's a lot of codependency or hyper independency, and what we're looking for is interdependency. Something that kind of helps all of us see each other and really be there for one another, and not in judgment, or not because we're looking to keep up with the Joneses.
Well,
So
sorry, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that you said. One thing is rely on your intuition, because when I have my best friend has two babies just like me, they're the same age, but we completely did it opposite. I mean, I co-slept with my baby. She put her babies in a separate room. She and her husband both worked. She works during the day, he works at night. So the kids went to daycare right off the bat. Mine did not. Right. So there were all these things. I breastfed, she didn't. But guess what? All four of our kids are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're all thriving in school. They're all doing well. They're all healthy, knock on wood. Right. So you are going to get all of this unsolicited advice, as you said, and it's okay. Listen to it. Right? You might take something from it, you might not, but at least it opens your eyes to different possibilities. And then at the end of the day, do what works for you, because you're the only one who knows what's best for you and your baby. You're the only one who's living that life. And no matter what you choose, as long as you're choosing it from a perspective of love, it's going to work out.
Yes.
There's no one right way of doing anything. Right. So, and I love that you're saying, find the people, because you have to find the people who are going to allow you to do it your way while supporting you, and
Yes.
not be judgmental and say, oh, well, I told you to do it this way and now you're not. So I'm not your friend anymore. I'm not going to be supporting you. Yeah, we all have different means, and we all have different resources, and we all have different ways that work for us that might not work for someone else.
Well, one thing I learned, especially being a marketer, right? Because I know some people say, oh, what's the difference between branding and marketing? But I try to stay on top of the industry, and I realize there's so much information, and I can't imagine for being in business in a time like this, when everything, you've got AI, funnels, you just name it. It's crazy, right? But I said that to say this. You guys are so on point, because the new rules in marketing, what the internet has done is allowed, instead of everybody being put into this cookie cutter marketing approach, like, okay, I have this product or service, so I'm just going to follow this formula and get this amount of money, right? The internet has now allowed everyone to go after micro interests. I call it a micro interest, because here we are, a group of moms talking about something that, if we had these types of conversations prior to even becoming a mom, right? But now here we have the ability to make it available for moms. And you guys are high level professionals, right? Ten, you did your TED talk. I encourage everyone to go and check it out. It's amazing. Chandelle, you do great work, even just with just being a friend in my life at the time. But one thing I learned was the kid. Tanya, you said it correct. Follow our intuition, because as we are choosing our path, the more awareness we have, like you said, Chandelle, the more awareness we have, the kid is sensing our own self as well, and they're feeding off of our energy. And
Yes.
I am noticing that as I have to communicate with my kids, is the biggest challenge is the fact that they don't speak, and we're anxious and eager for them to speak. And I know a lot of folks, they give them a tablet or a device or something that says, I'm just, when they're able to speak, then we'll hang out. But the time is now, because if you just observe them and watch them feed off of your energy and how you respond and react, I mean, it's like some real self actualization. I call it free coaching, right?
Yes.
Because you're being pushed to your limit to become a better business colleague, a better team player. You have to learn nonverbal communication, negotiation. And, on our subject for today, and almost being homeless, I can't imagine the pressure, Chandelle, of trying to maintain yourself, just stay whole in a time when faced with this financial challenge of, should I go to work? Should I not breastfeed my baby? I mean, like, tell us if you want to drill down a little bit more on maybe some mom who might be in a situation listening to this, just how to mentally get through that psychological crunch. Because I took homelessness for granted until a friend of mine did a speech in Toastmasters, and she said, no, today in America, because of what happened during the pandemic and the housing prices right now, there's people who have great credit, they meet all the criteria, but they can't get a home, because especially if you live in South Florida. I don't know about other
Yeah.
places, but if you live around here, man, I don't know, you need to be making like $10,000 to $15,000 a month base in order to be
No, more
comfortable.
like $12,000 to $15,000 a
Yes,
month.
in order
Did
to
the
be
number.
comfortable. So how do you get in the mindset of saying, you know what, I don't have it today, and stay hopeful for tomorrow?
That's all about spirituality, baby. You got to have your spiritual practices and your self love and self care rituals. And that's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up too. I A lot of the work that I've done with women, the primary things that have come up is intuition. So we strengthen the intuition and we teach the distinctions between fear based thoughts and things that would, decisions versus intuitive inclinations and decision making. And the difference is fear is very fretty. It's very irrational. It's constantly on the forefront versus intuition is a very sound yes or no when you're being faced with something and you need to maneuver through it. But what got me through it is certain things were just non-negotiable. When you know your non-negotiables, you're unfuckwithable. You know what I'm saying, to a degree. And the thing is that, propaganda is a real thing. Subliminal messages are constant. Marketing is very big. And we've been marketed to forever. I mean, there was a period of time where sugar was considered the best weight loss.
Yep.
Don't
80s.
get me
So
started, girl. Don't get me started. Even the flavor of your drink is scientifically crafted to make you addicted. I mean, it's ridiculous.
yes. So so I want to speak upon what is your true nature, hold on. I apologize. I had a call come in. So my company is Nurture Thy Nature, pioneering in your self-healing. But the reason why, it's because I realize the further away we stray from our true nature, the more chaos.
Right.
The closer we come towards our nature, the more harmony. So if you're in life, you have disharmony, it's all feedback. And if you have that spiritual practice, if you have your AM ritual, your PM ritual, and you keep it sacred and you're committed to yourself and you're pouring and nourishing yourself and not looking outwardly for validation, for that kind of love, and you're connected to your most high, the divine, you're going to feel safe in the most uncertain times. You still feel fretty. The fear is there because we have the limbic system. We have that part of us that wants to avoid things like certain challenges and problems, and we just don't want to end up in a box somewhere, in a corner in a house. But at the end of the day, you're always supported. You're always going to find resources. There are things that will make its way to you. It's the moment where you contract physically and you feel, this resistance and this doom that most of the times happens when you don't have that self-care and you're constantly running and moving forward and pushing. That kind of pushing without intention and a spiritual practice leaves you very burnt out. So being intentional with your time, be intentional with your life force energy, choosing your projects wisely, leveraging your time, your projects, like what, and that's what, again, goes back to virtues and values. If you don't know your virtues and values, you won't know your North Star. You won't know, you'll just think everything is a priority and nothing is a priority at that point. And so your life force energy will be pulled in different directions. So my AM rituals usually consist of me being in the present moment, being in a state of appreciation, and checking in with myself, breathing into my lungs, being thankful for the blood that courses through my veins. Those little things really help amplify the goodness. You know what they say, where attention goes, energy flows, amplification.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can use to kind of reverse engineer the anxiety, the nervousness. And there's a lot of really great ways to downregulate the nervous system. If you don't have command, like let's say you've become ADD, ADHD because you've gone through a lot of trauma, perhaps you've faced a lot of hardship to the point where every time something happens in your life, it feels like a heart attack. It feels like your nervous system is rattled up. And this is something I used to wake up with every morning was I felt like I was having heart palpitations and just an anxiety attack. So in order to calm myself down, what I had to do was connect to my breath. Everyone takes these things for granted, but it's all there. Your breath is a very powerful way of connecting to yourself and calming and regulating your nervous system, much like we do when a baby is attached to its mama, we can calm its nervous system down. So it's like our nature, the way God created us, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is so intelligent. And we need to give it more credit. God is big enough, and we keep taking it away from that place. There is a divine plan for us, and sometimes we can't see it for ourselves, but we need to be present moment. If we're traveling between fear of the future and the past, life is just passing us by in the present moment, and all the beautiful gifts that are there, all the opportunities, all the resources get squandered basically because you're not being present to it. So,
Yeah, so taking that to the homelessness part, and how do you make money and how do you get yourself out of homelessness? And right, it's when you are in tune with yourself, when you are making sure that you're getting your validation from within and not from without, right? It gives you the confidence to think outside the box, to actually throw away the box, right? To find new ways and better ways of solving problems, whatever they may be, whether you're homeless and you don't have a place to live, you need to make some money, or even like with the foreclosures. I was a foreclosure attorney. And yes, a lot of times $500 would have saved their house. And I did save a lot of homes by doing that because I asked questions, right? And so when you are confident and you're taking care of yourself, like Chandelle is saying, right? And when you're in the present moment, your brain is more able to find these solutions, to ask the right questions, to not be afraid of, coloring outside the line, right? Because just because it's always been that way doesn't mean that there's not a better way or another way. Right. And you can't get to those points until you are confident and secure in yourself, until you are in the present moment and you're taking care of yourself and not what everybody else thinks you should be doing, or right.
100%. And community is key because I didn't have a very big community, but again, being in that space of connecting with myself, it did bring in more aha moments. Because if you're in a fear space and your nervous system is rattled up, it's very hard for you to receive those aha moments. I'm going to call them aha moments. You can call them downloads, epiphanies. It's those little messages that come from God, the ethers, that you're like, hey, wait a second. There's this person I know that has possibly this opportunity, or You know, and another thing is letting go of what you think things need to look like. You know, letting go of what you think things need to look like, because miracles happen and things come to you, and it's not going to come to you always the way that you expect them to. It can come through impromptu, you know, crossing of someone's path. You know, there's so many different ways that you can give it opportunities and resources, and also knowing locally your county has a lot of resources. People don't dig enough in their counties and what kind of resources they can get. The library, you know, it's make sure that you create a by when date for yourself and envision, begin with the end in mind, because you can get trapped in the security of like the resources of the government sometimes, and you want to have more for yourself, right? We don't want to get stuck in that, oh well, but if I make more than this much and I won't be able to get food stamps. I've heard that before. We don't want that. This is temporary. This isn't a permanent thing. So start with the end in mind. Envision what is a life that honors you and your children. How do you visualize? Are you guys playing somewhere on the beach? Are you wanting to, you know, so many different things that you can be thinking of to try to narrow that down. And then feel into it and give yourself a by when date. By when do I want to, you know, be off of this thing, or have this amount of money, or, you know, move into this new space, or have whatever, you know. For me, I hustled, and I also needed to be cautious. Again, I didn't want to get too much into hustling, because there is times where you get oddball jobs. So there's going to be opportunities where you'll need to make some, you know, hustling moves to make some extra money. But when you have your own business, I try to go all in on my business. I really don't want to spread myself out thin. The whole getting a part-time job during that time in my life was no, it wasn't. I was not doing it. My
Like
son, that
Yeah.
was my non-negotiable. I'm like, absolutely not. I've spent 3 years doing my business. I'm not going backwards. I'm going forwards. And I feel really good about my decision. And I've had more community show up for me because of that vulnerability of me sharing in a graceful, tasteful way. Because look, to say that you're not going to get looked at a little funny, you know, people might judge you. And it's okay. It's you that needs to know in your heart that you're more than worthy to have the right community and the right people. And the people who are not for you are going to fall to the wayside. So it's kind of a disguise, a blessing in disguise sometimes when you're going through these challenges. You know what I'm saying?
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
No, I was going to say, I'll let Tanya close on a good point Chandelle made. Her level of commitment to see her business through, because Tanya, your background in being a business attorney and now business coach, most people, they fail. It's in like within the first 2 or 3 years, or they give up on the business or abandon the business, and they have no plan. If a key person should, like maybe they started with their spouse and maybe the spouse passed away, like they have no plan, all of it goes to waste. So Tanya, if you just want to close with that, speaking to maybe someone who may be listening to this, if you were to start a business and you were borderline homeless, what would you do? Or what would you put in place right away? Because most of us start the business backwards, and that ends up causing us to fail.
Well, Chandelle touched on it, and she said plan, right? You have to plan and don't give up, because failure is a part of life. Failure is a part of your success, right? I always tell people, Walt Disney went to over 300 banks and got a no before he got a bank to fund Disney World. I mean, how many of us give up after one no or two no's, right? Imagine 300. Star Wars, the guy, George Lucas, is it? Or whatever his name is, worked for 4 years trying to find someone to make the movie. 4 years. People telling him no, 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 right? And see how huge it is. Michael Jordan, anybody who is successful will tell you they have failed more times than they have succeeded, because it only takes one success, right, that you keep maintaining. but it takes umpteen million times of failures to get to that success. Plan, right? Plan what you're doing, plan how you're going to get there. If you do need to have another job, if you do need to have different income, that's fine, but plan for it so that you know that on these dates, on this time, I'm going to work on my business. During this time, I'm going to work on this business. And don't be afraid because you have a baby or you have a son or a daughter. I had a nursery in my law firm. How many attorneys bring their babies to their offices? Like none. But you know what? It didn't matter because I attracted the clients who didn't care. And I still created a business with my baby with me. I mean, he used to come with me to consultations, right? But think outside the box. You're going to be judged anyways. No matter what you do or don't do, someone will judge you. So you may as well do what works for you and let them judge you while you're happy rather than pretending to be something else or living miserably because of everybody else's expectations.
Well, I mean, even now it's a beautiful thing if you can get into the right frame of mind, implementing some of what Chandelle said, breathing, connecting with yourself. I see a lot of homeless people on the street, not judging anyone, but most of them got cell phones, man. And I don't think it's just to make a call. They're on Wi-Fi in the parks. There is someone that camps out at our park and he's got devices plugged in. I've seen him at church. I mean, technology is scary. And to all my moms who are out there feeling intimidated by technology, I say get yourself in a great community group that can help you lift your spirits. And let's use this technology to our advantage because we are living in a time that even my grandparents are like, wow, I've seen so much in this short period of time that I've seen in my whole lifetime. So on a spiritual level, let's stack the odds in our favor. That's like my favorite thing because life is uncertain. And Tanya, you nailed it on the head. There ain't no reruns, man. Let's do it. We got to do it now. So thank you so much, Chandelle, for being transparent and open with such a sensitive subject. And I encourage everyone to reach out to us. Our contact information is going to be attached to this video content. And I hope we can make a difference and help someone, right? Because when you fulfill your role, your life purpose, one of my mentors said, someone somewhere is waiting. And if that doesn't encourage you to get off your butt, man, I don't know. Well, with that being said, we gotta go. All right, ladies, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.